Rev up your engines!
James Eagles says, what are your thoughts on a Corolla Cross? That's a perfectly timed question. Yesterday, Friday, a guy came all the way from Philadelphia. I'm not making it all the way from Philadelphia to Clarksville, Tennessee, and he brought me a brand new one that he bought. The guy used to be a demolisher of buildings, and he's retired now. He brought it over here. I went through it. I was totally impressed. Now, realize the Toyota Corolla Cross. It's a Toyota Corolla, the frame, engine, transmission. It's just Toyota Corolla. But it's a small SUV on top of it. Now, I made a comparison. I couldn't stop laughing. All right, it's a 2022 Cross. My 2007 Toyota Matrix is basically the same vehicle. It was on a Toyota Corolla frame, a Toyota Corolla engine, transmission, and originally it was called the Toyota Corolla Matrix. And here's the funny thing. With all the technology between 2007 and 2022, this Toyota Corolla Cross only got 1 mile a gallon better gas mileage on a highway than the old 07 Matrix. It got 33 and I get 32. So all this crap about, oh, we make them to get better gas mileage, they can only go so far. All that, what are we talking about? 15 years of technology and all it gets is 1 mile a gallon better gas mileage. No, I mean, for an SUV, 33 on the highway is fine, you know, I mean, but you go all that technology and that's all it gets. Now, it had more horsepower. It had like 20 more horsepower. But actually, the Matrix was zippier because the Matrix has an actual automatic transmission and it was much zippier than the Cross, which has the CVT transmission. And so, actually, the Matrix was a faster vehicle and it got about the same gas mileage. Now, they're excellent vehicles. I got nothing against the Crosses. You want SUV that size? There's nothing wrong with them. They're really well made. I just laughed my rear end off that after 15 years, the only difference was 1 mile a gallon on highway gas mileage. Danny Cohen says, Scotty, what do you think my mom's 2019 Chevy Traverse, and we are planning on replacing it soon? Yes, replace it soon, before it falls apart. Here's the thing. Usually those things, GM products, horrendous resale value. But with this crazy virus nonsense going around, now the price of used cars has gone sky high. You might get some decent money for that. Call up Carvana. Call up CarMax. Just the other day, guy had a Nissan. I wouldn't have given him $5,000 for it. He called up Carvana. They came with a tow truck. They didn't even drive around the block. They started up, looked at him, and they gave him a check for $17,000. So you never know what they're going to give you for those things. And then if you want something that lasts, get a Toyota or Honda. It'll last a lot longer, you know. That's the one advantage. If you got a vehicle and it still runs good like that, it's not that old. What is it? It's 3 years old, right? Now you might get some really good money. It'd be a smart move to get rid of it now and get a better vehicle. Drone Production says, opinion on E46 BMW M3. My dad owned one for 20 years. Yeah, your dad owned one for 20 years. That means it was at least 20 years old and they made them better back then. Now, the M series are high tech. They go fast. A lot of people like them. Here's the problem. Their level of technology is, especially the modern ones. I know many very good mechanics that will work on BMWs, but they will not touch the M series because they have to buy special tools, special computer stuff. Cost them a fortune to buy that stuff, and they're a pain in the butt to work on. I'll give you a perfect example. Guy brought me one. He wanted to put struts on it, and he went to these guys. He said they wanted thousands of dollars. He says, why don't you put it on? I said, well, let me look at it. I looked, I started taking it apart, and I said, no wonder they want thousands of dollars. You can take a whole car apart, and now there's specialty tools. I'm going to have to go buy a $1,500 tool. I said, forget it. And I found a guy who specialized on BMWs. They took it to them, and then they charged them thousands of dollars to replace the struts. They're not cheap to work on. Now, your dad probably didn't put that many miles on it either, you know. Most guys have those. They're toys. They drive them a little bit. He had it for 20 years. What did he have on it? 60, 70,000 miles or something after 20 years? And if that's so, any car is going to last. The new ones, man, the technology in them is insane to fix them. Parker Henry says, what's your opinion on Rivian upping the price of their trucks and then honoring the price of pre-orders? 20% they raised them. And then they got so many orders canceled. A few days later, oh, we made a mistake. We're so sorry. They tried pushing the boundaries. They pushed too hard. And it'll bite them in the rear end. This is a company that, I know, what they made so far, 500 vehicles or something? Is it going to be a viable? What if you bought one of these stupid things and then the company goes bankrupt? You're stuck with a vehicle nobody makes anymore. There you go, you know. And some of them, they're raising them up to like $88,000. Imagine buying an $88,000 vehicle, then they don't make it anymore, and you just peed that down the toilet, you know? You buy a house for a couple $100,000, it's a house that's sitting there. You can always sell it to somebody else. But if you own a vehicle they don't make anymore and nobody wants them, you got yourself a nice lawn ornament there. So they just pushed it too far. And, oh, we made a mistake, they said. No, they didn't. They were greedy. They got caught. And now they have to hand in a cookie jar and they're trying to pull it out. The Hombre Boss says, Scotty, should I get a used, midsize, full-size truck or a new Ford Maverick? Well, what do you want? Now, if you're a riverboat gambler and you want a small truck, try the Maverick. Just realize they're all made in Mexico. Who knows? I road tested one. I liked the way it ran. But then again, last year I made a video on the new mid-engine Corvette, and I love the way it ran and stuff. But then you find out they're falling apart. The transmissions don't work right. Some of them, the engines are having problems. The wheels were cast wheels, just cast wheels instead of forged, and the hubs are snapping off on them. So I reserve judgment on the Ford Maverick until they've been out, 2 or 3 or 4 years to see, are they holding up or are they just falling apart? Realize it's one of the cheapest vehicles they make. They're trying to sell them for under 20. Of course, now all the dealers are scumbags. I've seen people sell them for 35. They just mark them up. The whole point was it was under 20 grand. But what do you want? Mid-size, full-size truck. What's out there? What are you willing to get? Are you going to pull a lot of stuff? Are you going to tow a lot of stuff? Maybe you only need mid-size. My son's got a Toyota Tacoma 4-cylinder. He doesn't have a trailer hitch on it because he doesn't tow anything. But if you're a riverboat gambler, maybe the Maverick. But hey, I'm not a riverboat gambler. I would never buy a new vehicle that just came out. Who knows what's going to break on him? Marty says, Scott, I got a 17 Nissan. What should I exchange it for? Not another Nissan. If you can get a deal anywhere, you can exchange for a Toyota or a Honda that's older, maybe higher mileage, go right ahead. They're much better made vehicles. I had a guy do that the other day. He traded 2 Nissans for 2 used Lexuses. He had to pay $5 grand extra, but I thought he got a pretty good deal. Each Lexus only had 100,000 miles. One had 98, one had 110,000 miles, and those things can run forever, and they were real happy with them. So if you can exchange it, just don't get another Nissan. At least you're lucky that the price of used cars is up. You might get some decent money for that thing. Mike Magic 71 says, have you ever worked on a Rolls-royce? I used to work on English sports cars and these cars all the time decades ago. And even back in the day, the brake rotors for those things were like $800. This was when I could get Ford brake rotors for $25. The brake rotors for the Rolls-Royce were like $800. Of course, realized Rolls-Royce years ago got bought out by BMW. For ages, they had the V12 BMW engines in them. And it's just a status thing. Rolls-Royce is kind of passe now. They went on to Bentleys. But I've worked on them. They're basically BMWs now. I always worked on a lot of BMWs. They're not worth the money you pay for them. Zach Wyman says, what can I do to make my 2021 Kia Soul last forever? Don't drive it. Then it won't wear out, right? You want to change your oil every 5,000 miles. Don't listen to that crap, 10, 15,000. Change it every 5,000 miles. You don't want to beat it. I'm assuming if you're in the United States, 95% of Americans drive automatic. If it's got one of those automatic CVT transmissions, change that fluid. Learn how to change it yourself every 30,000 miles to make it last as long as possible, and use the fluid from the Kia dealer. You want to use the same fluid. You don't want to mix and match. Drive conservatively. You never know. And here's a big one. Stay away from deep water. Those things that get in deep water, their electronics get destroyed. Do not try to drive through deep water. If it's raining, go to the top of a hill, or if you're in the city, the top of a giant parking lot and park there. Go out and watch a movie or something. Don't try to drive through high water. Victor Fernandez says, I'm from Norton, Massachusetts. Yeah, my son lives there too. Should I buy a Lexus RX or an Acura MDX? Which will last longer? You're picking 2 of the best ones out there. Personally, I think the Lexus will last longer. The Acuras are excellent, but from my experience, the Lexus transmissions can go 3, 4, 500,000 miles, and the Acura transmissions, I've seen them break at like 190, 200,000 miles. So generally, the Lexus will. But of course, it depends how much do you drive, how long do you keep a car. If you don't keep a car 150,000 miles, it really doesn't matter which one you buy. But if you're a cheapskate like me, you want them to last a really long time. The Lexus will generally last longer. Jay Smallwood says, is it worth having a 2006 Acura MDX transmission rebuilt? Well, if the vehicle's in excellent shape, and you know someone who really knows how to rebuild them, yes. The problem is hardly anybody knows how to rebuild them. If you're going to get a vehicle like that rebuilt, what you want is a guy who works on nothing but Honda and Acura automatic transmissions. There are places in the United States. They're excellent. They know what they're doing. Do a little research. And then you send them yours, and they send you one that's already been rebuilt. And then they rebuild yours later for somebody else. That's the way to go. Do not take that thing to some tranny shop that says, oh yeah, we can rebuild it. And then you get it back. Over 33% of those transmissions that people go to transmission shops and have rebuilt, over 33% of them, 1 out of 3 don't work right when they get them back. That's why you wouldn't want a specialist. That's all they do. It's gotten to that level that I was just talking to a tranny guy here in Clarksville. And I said, you work on those? He said, look, we used to, but they just ate our lunch. So now we just tell people, we will buy a factory remanufactured one. And we install it for this amount of money, and here's the 3-year guarantee it comes with. Even the guys that rebuild them are going to buy one of those from a specialist because they know they can't rebuild those correctly, but they know these guys that do, and they buy them from them. That's about the only way you want to do it right. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.